Well, here it is, everybody. The big day that I've been waiting for. At this point, when I first saw this moderate risk, it was the first time in the couple or so months that I'd been looking at SPC outlooks, and then another one popped up. On the first day of a week-long vacation that I had planned for any purpose, really. A 10% bubble. I mean, I couldn't pass that up. Are you kidding me? A moderate risk that popped up in Dixie was too far away and I was already working. But this one, there was no reason not to. And so here I was. I had, unfortunately, some obligations back in town, so I had to leave later than I would have preferred. Nonetheless, this is me passing through Amarillo, opting to go to this little cell, trying to catch steam between the border, Texas, and Oklahoma. Starting off in Texas, but making its way first passing over Hollis. And you can see right here, really, really free of precipitation. Nice little cinnamon bun present. And this is time-lapsed, which is something you'll see that I do a lot of. It's because it's just so helpful to see the storm motion when you have time lapses or fast forward. For example, this, you can see rotation, but it's not tilted up. Saw some fast-moving clouds that were constricted together. Still no tornado, but this thing's looking a lot scarier than it did. I've been watching this thing ever since I was passing Amarillo and saw it building up. Figured it had potential. So there I was inside severe thunderstorm warning for this little cell, and I proceeded along, trying to be cautious no less, even though it was, at the time, relatively shallow cell. Looks like it was struggling. Alright, I don't know if we have anything quite yet here, but that's why I need to stop. Get situational awareness back up to 100%. So it looks like we have a descending funnel over in the distance, and then we also have this rotation convergence right here. Being that I'm chasing from not quite the Bear's Cage, not quite the Ghost Train, just south of it, trying to roll along with it. If I kept going along and it had a strong right turn, I'd be right in its path. We're gonna stop right here, admire the clouds. We'll get back on it if it feels that it's safe enough to do so. Yeah, I just had to include my penguin self bobbing along back to the car. Alright, this thing's coming together really, really suddenly. There's a whole bunch of wind blowing up dust. Not tornadic wind, but potentially straight line or inflow. Now this storm still looks kind of small, still doesn't look like it is gonna be this terrible beast, but with how quickly it's came together, I'm not discounting any possibility now. And truthfully, even looking over the footage that I gathered to make this film, I still can't really characterize what happened on this chase day with this storm right here. Just weird. Very, very quickly, this storm only served to confuse me. Got to see the radar cues, get an idea what's happening. But the updraft really did look like it was getting stronger. However, getting out into the wind and feeling that it's going the opposite direction, I'm not sure if it's just happening to be the outflow boundary that the storm is coming up against, or if it's outflow dominant. I would find that that was really more so the case than anything, is that, yeah, lots of outflow. All right, you can see dirt coming off the ground over there. I'm not sure. Looks like a tornado. There's a funnel descended from it. And then over here we got dirt swirls too. This is a very weird storm. I keep checking behind me, doing idiot checks, making sure I'm not gonna get taken down by something on my rear. It's so weird. It looks more like a shelf. It's potentially just gustnado. But on radar, I saw rotation. Oh yeah, you can see a whole bunch of dirt being lifted up now. And so, realistically, much of this was very likely gustnado. Seems a lot more like gustnado than tornado. Alright, I'm gonna check radar. This was an area where there's tight rotation, but still, there's a whole bunch of outflow. That almost looks like it's being updrafted. I'm not sure. That looks like it's gone up. Got more dirt swirls over here. It's being lofted pretty high. And so I continued to watch these, got some nice photographs, regardless of whatever was lofting that dirt in the air. It was definitely very, very appealing to the eye. Alright, I'm still super confused about what's happening here. I can't tell if we're getting gustnados or tornadoes. There's a dirt swirl over here, and another one over here. I think we're just seeing gustnados. It seems more along the lines of what would happen during a derecho, which of course is what was predicted for today. And those look like shelf clouds, so I'm gonna guess that yes, this is probably a gustnado. Got something descending, and it's dying off. If you look to the right side of the screen there, on what would be the flanking line, what almost looks like that little bit of cloud shooting off to space. It's very interesting. That looks like it's being lofted very, very rapidly. Still curious. I'm not entirely convinced on what this thing is. And even here in the future, sitting where I do now, I'm still not convinced on what it was. If it's a gustnado, it's still pretty cool. Pretty good looking one. Definitely, at this point, it was the coolest gustnados that I had ever seen. I'm watching the skies. And it's a little bit redundant for me to say that as a storm chaser. I'm gonna put it to time-lapse mode, and I might have to start blasting. And here you go. So the best time-lapse that I've ever captured. Regardless of what this storm was doing exactly, it was amazingly photogenic, especially chasing it from the position where I did. You can see right there a whole bunch of dirt being lofted into the sky. And regardless of this being the back, and whether it's possible that this was a powerful outflow or inflow driven circulation, it was amazing to see nonetheless. And the storm was moving fast. Okay, we've got a really weird storm happening in front of us. Right over here, I'm not sure if it's just because of the composition of the dirt that's being lofted. Picking up right there from a little cinnamon bun right there. Or if this was actually different than all the other dirt swirls that I was seeing, as to whether or not it was potentially from some kind of other dynamic. The storm is just confusing me so much. No lie there. And also still impressed by it. And there was definitely a beauty about chasing from the rear flank of these storms. Some of the most magnificent large structure that I've seen so far. My appetite for tornadoes is really grown right now. I feel like I need to see one, a real mesocyclonic one, not a gustnado. And at my position where I was chasing what appeared to me to just be strong outflow that could cause circulations, maybe even a spin up, but not something that I could depend on so much that I would really stake everything on it. Once it became just too grungy and heavy in precipitation, I stopped following the storm. Now this sign, there's a reason why I'm zooming in on it. I was growing a little bitter and very hungry for a tornado after missing opportunities earlier in the day, but that doesn't mean that you should just abandon all of your rules, all of what you know about chasing, just because you really want to get a tornado. Of course, there's other things to be hungry for. Really hungry for one. I'm not so hungry for food anymore because I just stuffed my face with a whole bunch of Cheetos. Anyways, here I am after chasing until probably around 10 p.m. Central. I found maybe one more opportunity to get myself into a little bit of trouble. You've got a weird stuff happening right here. A couple different velocity couplets all next to each other. It looks really wild, and it's already pretty close. Yeah, as usual, I have to take a piss. Oh yeah, I had to throw that one in there. Every chase. And what I didn't realize as I sat there waiting for the storms to get closer was they were moving a lot faster than I was prepared for. It's just overly cautious, but looking at the clouds above right now, hearing the lightning intensify. South. And don't worry, this is time lapse. This is not me gunning at full speed, though this is what it felt like as I was trying to get away from the storm. Got ourselves in some. There's been multiple times already where I've been like, oh crap. Alright, we're trying to play escape the damn potential tornado. This thing right here. And there are certain points in here that I have a hard time discerning whether I'm watching a lightning flash or a power flash. Most of it is lightning flashes, but there's at least one instance where I'm uncertain one or the other. Not to mention, I'm uncertain at a couple of points whether I'm not actually maybe looking at a tornado. A tornado warning for this yet, but in the blustery dark of night, it's almost impossible to tell. Lightning illuminated clouds and all that they do are very hard to see. There's a velocity couplet somewhere on radar, like really close to my current position. I'm just trying to find it in the sky. Looks like that's it right there. course, if you listen closely, you can hear the wind surging on my position. There, I've decided to shoot south, and there's already damage visible. That tree got torn down. I encountered more damage as I continued along on this road. This is definitely not what I wanted to do, is get on a gravel road to try to get away from the storm. I also encountered what I still can't determine whether it was an embedded tornado or just something that resembles one. Whether I slow it down or I throw it in time lapse or I hit the still and see what it looks like in any of those perspectives, I don't have a conclusion to draw. But I feel like it's at least close enough to a coin flip that it's definitely a good thing that I didn't just sit on my butt and wait around to find out firsthand. Even an EF0 is not something that you want to get stuck in. That looks so... So this thing, I mean, just scared the crap out of me. I'm not gonna forget this one. Alright, just so you guys can get an idea of what it's like right now. Get me into a paved road soon, please. Yeah, I got a little intense that night trying to get away from every storm, but luckily I got away safe with some pretty good pictures in the process. This lowering right here will always perplex me because it's not like I can go and dig it up and see what it was doing. It's here and then it's gone. Regardless, I went back onto the road. I worked my way from the south central part of Oklahoma on June 15th. Made my way to Elk City, stayed the night there, and leisurely all the way to where I am in this time lapse, which is the southwestern part of Kansas. I ended up in Colorado, stopped in the town of Hawley, and then I blasted back southwards after thinking that north was the right way. We had a couple embedded supercells. Very quickly became tornado warned after I crossed my fingers and asked pretty please, can I have a tornado warning? And I got them. If one of them is already better than the other, then I will take the one that is known to be better. So what I decided to do, knowing that with embedded supercells, they're fighting a hard battle to continue along doing what they do. And furthermore, not wanting to get caught in a crappy situation like I did the night before, I wanted to go for the one that at least had some option of escape in a place like southeastern Colorado, which is just so minimal on road options that are reasonable during a tornado chase. the supercell right here from a distance resembled like an Independence Day spaceship. But as I got closer, it started resembling more of a bell. From the distance where I was, though, it was really a unique experience. Despite having already been on several chases this year, I'm still early enough in that everything is really bringing something that I haven't seen before. Like a firefly right there. Got some really good lightning pictures, lots of lightning slow shots and time lapses. And this tornado-warned supercell, when I noticed it at least, continued along starting over the town of Perryton. It was somewhere around the town of Springfield where I was watching it right here. We were moving on a convergence point with it. Perhaps the absolute clearest that I've ever been able to see a supercell from distance. The inflow on the supercell, I think, is pretty well illustrated by the really interesting shot of seeing the American flag fly towards it. I found myself in a tough, confusing situation where I was, when I was, and in relation to where it was. The storm and I were continuing to converge towards each other. And so I decided if I'm gonna have to converge with it, I might as well get the most out of doing so. Get the most direct shot, have the most direct, close experience with this cell that I had seen from, at the beginning, probably 50 miles away. And you'll see it produced some funnel clouds, such as when I got to the town of Walsh and the shadows were cast. But the lightning illuminated one very prominent funnel cloud. But the funnel cloud wasn't actually the thing that got me to scoot my dumb storm chasing ass away. I think that's a tornado. Oh, hail. Yeah, that's what got me moving. I guess I'm just more scared of my windshield getting blasted out than I am of my whole car being wafted up with me inside of it. So I decided to post up underneath a tree and try to observe the funnel cloud. Now the funnel cloud looking like that, quite thin and wispy, it wasn't super intimidating or worrying that it might do something damaging. But of course, that's nothing to take lightly. I got myself to the other side of the storm, avoided getting absolutely cored by hail, and eventually made my way on to Springfield to see that I wasn't done for the night quite yet, even though I was kind of ready to call it a day. Instead, I still had a line of multiple embedded rotations in an MCS. After chilling in town, I decided to hang around to see what happens. And so I did. Here I am, watching and really just taking it all in, because yet again I found myself chasing at night against a line of storms with multiple rotations embedded within. Looking above me, trying to imagine what I'm seeing and what it would look like if I was able to hit the fast forward button in my own mind. And just like the night before, I was able to see a lowering that really resembled tornado. Tornadoes don't have to be condensed to be tornadoes. Of course, right above me was a potential circulation, and I was trying to keep my eyes split between that one and the one in the distance. But I was definitely more focused on the one in the distance as far as determining whether I had a tornado for the sake of catching tornadoes, because I love catching tornadoes. The one that was right above me, though, obviously had my attention in regards to my own safety. And unfortunately, between all the windshield wiping, the washer fluid getting in the way, the lightning flashing, sometimes helping and sometimes hurting visibility, there's these moments where I think, okay, potentially could have been a weak little tornado embedded in this line, or this thing could have been so potently outflow dominant that it was just driving a whole bunch of straight line winds that at best were making gustnados that just were not visible because it was the middle of the night. Now, if it turns out that somebody sees this video and they happen to know way more than I do, well, that'll be very nice to know, hopefully once and for all, just what the heck was I looking at this night. Because honestly, I just wanted to go find a place to rest for the day and hopefully get a chance to actually check the SPC outlooks. Because I was so occupied by storm chasing from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. I didn't get to check until probably I'd say around 3 a.m. that night, or really the next morning. Right when I need to bomb north, guess what's freaking in the way? Goddamn train. That's how it goes. That's how it would go. And I agree with myself from back then, only month or so ago at this point, but definitely true. That just is how it goes while storm chasing, as with many other things in life, but this is something I've known very well since I started doing it. And yeah. So I decided to blast north and try to get to approximately around the town of Lamar, maybe a little bit further north if I could. I didn't know exactly what the SPC outlooks showed this time and where I ended up. I was still dealing with the MCS, and the only way out was through north. I've seen tornado capable of being a SIG-TOR. What I mean by a tornado capable, I don't mean that it has to hit anything, but just has winds of that strength. And of course, SIG-TOR is anything that's rated EF2 or stronger. And so, SIG-TOR, EF2 and above. Intense is EF3 and above. And then there's the violent category, which is EF4 and above. As far as what I have seen, I had 2 EFUs that I caught in New Mexico, 1 EFU that I caught in Texas, and my strongest was an EF0 that I caught in Oklahoma. Though potentially there were more unaccounted for, and there was definitely more on the way from this point. But not hitting anything. But I've never seen an official SIG-TOR. And so here we are, photos from that night. An amazing structure, if not maybe a little bit blurry from the rear of the cell as it was over Walsh, as well as this before when it was over Pritchett. And furthermore, lightning shots, which I'm admittedly not the best at, but that makes them all the better when I do get them. And I very much enjoy the ones that I got that night, especially this lightning illuminated funnel cloud, which, if you look at the bottom, seems to have some helicity to it. Probably not that strong, but it looks beautiful if you ask me, especially with the star in the back. Now I had another day of chasing yet again, 3rd in a row, back in Oklahoma, not as far as the last time that I was going to go. Woke up, thought I was in the mist. Fog, rainbow. Don't know what that meant for the day, but as far as the risk, it was enhanced. Not quite as moderate as it was the last time I was in Oklahoma, but far and away, more than enough. Couldn't decide on which hat to wear. I started the day off around the area of Lamar, and then I made my way back to where I was probably only about 36 hours earlier. Got myself some smart water to make smart decisions. Unlike the one that I had made the night before when I tweeted to the wrong National Weather Service office. They were nice and I was nice too, but I wanted to make sure I avoided that issue again. I made sure to save the NWS maps. I wanted to be on my game. I wanted to have this chase go right. This was the day I wanted to have the tornado, even if it's just grungy, high precipitation mess that I get just a glimpse of. The expert man, Reed Timmer, is on the storm over here to our right. It's already tornado warned, so I think we're gonna gun that way. And gun that way I did. From the distance, chasing from the rear. Something that maybe most chasers, I would presume, don't really like to do. Some are more aggressive than that, and so they like to put themselves closer to the bear's cage. Some are less aggressive than that. They like to chase from far south. Me, I like to chase from the rear a lot of the times, especially when it can garner views like this, especially if you strike the right time of the day when the chase is happening. However, the situation I ended up in by chasing from the rear led to me having one not so photogenic wall cloud because I was on the shadowy side, and one that got much, much closer to, but you'll see in a little bit what I mean by that. Anyways, there's always a sense of anticipation, even if it's just 30 seconds when you're driving through a town. You can't quite see past the trees. And then when you do see past the trees and it looks like this, oh man, does it get you really, really ready to go. Now this is real-time speed. This is what I was seeing. And even at real-time speed, you can already tell that there's pretty rapid movement within those clouds. You don't see clouds move that fast unless there's a lot of energy behind either something pulling them up or something throwing them back down to earth. We'd see both of those phenomena today. And here's those clouds and what they were doing at a higher speed to get a better idea of what it was like. When you're watching these things in person, it always feels a lot faster in person than watching back on video, which is another reason why I like to have the time lapse. It gives an idea of what I felt like in the moment for anybody who's watching. Here's one of those amazing wall clouds that I saw from the shadowy side. Now the thing is, this storm over to the right, the updraft to the south, and this one over here to the north or the left in my video, they were competing. And it seemed to me like most of the chasers that day started on the one to the south, over here, this one to the right, which certainly garnered a lot of attention. And from a lot of the images that I saw, it got amazing photographs. But even in the moment, there was just something that I was drawn to about this one. You can see right here the vorticity that it's already displaying. This updraft was definitely not playing around, and it had plenty of energy behind it. So the supercell now with two updrafts competing. This one was still the dominant, and it was still garnering a lot of attention. This is a time lapse, slightly sped up, and clearly it was no slouch. It was putting down little, small, short-lived tornadoes, but nothing major, nothing condensed, nothing significant. And so I posted up for a little bit, took my attention from the popular one, and focused myself back over to the left, or the north. This decision set me up for an amazingly wild chase. There I was, posted up, looking at and expecting a cell split. On the north, that circle right there indicates the updraft I was focusing on and gambling for. Here's a time lapse demonstrating it, and even radar scope had picked up on it. Here is the updraft that had been getting all the attention.
Continues to have lowering over here to the right, but there's also a circulation over here to the left that just a little bit ago dropped a small funnel. This one over here that you're looking at right now has repeatedly dropped a funnel that reaches close to the ground, but at no point has it actually made a condensed tornado.
That's the storm over there. It's looked pretty impressive this whole time, but hasn't put anything down. We got this storm over here. This one has a hail core. And so while I wasn't going to go with this one to gamble on, its beauty was definitely something that I took appreciation of. Has a hail core and visible Amatis right there. Lightning has intensified recently, as you can see there, but it's hard to tell what is going to happen because these two appear to be interacting, and that's affecting each of their developments. Now, there are multiple kinds of interactions that are worth noting, but the one that scared me the most was the Fujiwara effect, which is in regards to the fact that cyclones near one another tend to circle about a central point and merge, which this is frequently applied to tropical cyclones, but it also applies to a different kind, mesocyclones, the parents of tornadoes. Here's a little animation I did, a very rudimentary one, but it kind of gets the idea across of what it looks like. It's like planets orbiting each other or a black hole eating a star, which furthermore goes to describe the fact that larger cyclones, they typically have dominant influence over the smaller cyclones and will absorb them potentially. Recycling. I'm gonna close the window just so that no lightning crawls all the way inside and you can hear me better. There's a funnel, and a storm to the right, but no further descending, condensing. Over here to the left, it's getting bigger, it's getting scarier. Yeah, the storm behind me is looking a lot better. I think we're gonna go after that one. I just don't see this one taking off. And this one over to the left, I've been keeping an eye on for a while. And I will say it was an audacious, bold statement and claim to make that this over here was going to be more worth chasing than the one over to the right. And part of what motivated me to come after this one was that I could hopefully keep chasing from the rear. And this thing looks mean. Yeah, it's always nice when you have your window down and that happens. I've needed to piss for a while, but this chase has been go, go, go.
Maybe finally coming together. But that's about as low as it's gotten. I got my eyes readily looking at what's up above me.
This is a storm chaser. It's a little bit redundant to say that because I'm kind of always, but what I meant to say is that I'm looking more directly upwards than even usual.
Dangerous situation. God, I wish there was paved roads around here, like more than just a couple. I imagine that most people are like me in that rain-wrapped tornadoes are not exactly the move.
I make a lot of weird noises when I'm chasing, and when I'm on camera, when I'm chasing, those noises get captured. Don't expect me to explain them because I can't. I don't know.
Right here, it looks like it's doing it. It looks like it's doing it. I mean, who knows? Maybe not.
I also like to think I'm funny when I'm chasing, but whoever watches this, you can be the judge of that.
If this thing suddenly drops something, though. Okay, I'm gonna know.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna know if something drops. From where I am right there, if it were to drop, it could be anywhere within all that vorticity.
These appendages are scaring the shit out of me. Alright, hopefully I can get past it. This is why they call it the Super Bowl of storm chasing. You have to be on your game.
I don't know why I forgot to include context there, but I was referring to Oklahoma as the Super Bowl of storm chasing, which it is. So, this is maybe 10 minutes before the last shot. So, I'm in an interesting position to say the least.
This is f***ing intense. And the Supercell has a mean hook. I'm gonna check radar again, get a better bearing.
Always good to get your bearings up continuously during a chase.
Looks like some damage right here. This tree. I don't know, maybe that's just a weirdly grown tree. Alright, I'm guessing we're about 3 miles from the turn. Maybe less. Clear air right there. Running. Right there, it's looking weak.
And so yeah, I was watching what was almost like a pseudo rope out phase of the other updraft's powerful state. As it went on, it started to weaken, and all of its energy was largely going somewhere else, somewhere that might have been near where I was.
It's about to be one of the wildest.
Yeah, that sort of got interrupted, and you'll understand why in a little bit why I did that.
It's about to be one of the wildest. It's about to be one of the wildest things I've ever seen or done. I'm gonna hook slice, or I'm gonna get eaten by a tornado.
Simple, straightforward, true.
When I do, I need to be confident in it, because this is something where there's no, oh, let me do over.
And that is also very true. Now, there I was watching in the distance what, again, I describe as almost like a pseudo rope out phase of the other updraft.
Let's see if I can slice this. Stupid phone keeps on dropping in the middle of video.
Yeah, you're gonna see why that really, really irritates me on this chase in a very short bit. And here I go, committing to the hook slice, knowing that the mesocyclone that I was following very closely, it's not about to just disappear. Over to my left, the east, slowly losing energy. All of that energy isn't just gonna dissipate into the middle of nowhere. It's gonna go somewhere. The mesocyclone that I was just on to my right, and there's very, very rapid upward moving vorticity.
Get my route straightened out.
Wait, what happened? What happened? Well, what happened is earlier, the couple times I'd already mentioned, for some reason, when I tried to utilize other utilities for my phone, it didn't want to give me back the option to use my camera properly, and so it just did not. And so I missed out on being able to record directly underneath those vortices that you saw me approaching on the hook slice. But here it is in fast time lapse to see just how quickly those were moving. And here it is on slow-mo to get an idea of how close I was. And I was right there, we were converging on each other.
Of course, the camera wasn't rolling when scariest shit ever just happened. I was underneath the storm here. And you can see behind us. We're just under that.
The legendary Beaver, Oklahoma wall cloud. And I got to be right beneath it as it passed through town. I wish I had a video of it, but I think you can do the math and see where I was right before and right after. A new tornado warning was issued. The tornado warning was for this storm.
I'm gonna take a piss because I've been holding on to it for like over an hour or two, and then I'm gonna jet.
There's a whole bunch of turbulence behind it, but the wall cloud and these little appendages reaching out are what's most striking, of course. Some of those appendages from people who had a closer vantage point actually proved to be little tornadoes with small ground circulation. Tornadoes no less. And observant viewers might notice that those winds look kind of like powerful straight line winds. Now, why might that be? Well, there's a derecho forming behind me. Nonetheless, I stayed on the tornado chase. And since tornadoes typically bisect the polygon that they're warned for most of the time, I decided to move along that way towards Laverne. Now, before that, you're probably wondering why I stopped this random frame on this random truck for random thought. Well, the truck is random, but the thought actually isn't random. See, at this stop right here, and sometime either before or after this truck passed by, another guy in his own pickup truck was hauling a trailer, and he got out and asked for help. But he didn't ask for help by saying, "Hello, sir, I need help." He said to me, "Hablas español?" And that, of course, means, "Do you speak Spanish?" This guy saw me and a couple other chasers posted up on the side of the road and, of course, noted the giant storm ahead of us. And he seemed a little bit pressured and frantic, like he really, really wanted to get through to Kansas. But I implored him, please, do not do that. If you don't have to take the chance, there's no reason to. Of course, speaking in Spanish, I was able to communicate with them because otherwise, who knows how. The bottom line to why I bring this point up is that chasers were oftentimes seen as just amateurs or guys that are just in it for the money or whatever reasons that people come up with. But sometimes the skills that we have, even if we're totally unpaid and we're just out there for thrills, they still can mean something. Anyways, before I get too preachy, it's back to the chaotic chase. And watching everything up above me, there was a moment of comfort knowing that it was all outflow driven. But then I thought about derechos don't always fail to produce tornadoes. They're often actually capable of doing so. So if I'm gonna have to deal with a tornado, I might as well look at it straight in the face.
Here's a challenge. Okay, tell me. get it?
And right there behind all the grunge and nastiness, there's the beginning stages of the tornado that would pass all the way through Laverne. And based off of Reed Timmer and the TIV team, where they were at this time, I can pretty reasonably determine that this was that tornado. But where was I now? Well, I got pretty far behind, close enough to be able to see the tornado, but too far behind to avoid getting caught by the front of the derecho. Derechos often make everything fly, so fly I decided to do. Fly that sign tried to do as well. Now it's not able to fly, but evidently dirt is. And the derecho was able to produce massive gustnados with hurricane force winds reaching around 80 miles per hour, enforcing gustnados so large and high reaching. They almost seemed to pull the clouds down with them.
Definitely within the damaging winds category.
And I'm not even sure why I felt the need to note that in the moment. But yes, if there was any question about that, this was definitely the damaging wind categories. Straight line, doesn't matter that it's not tornadic. And those damaging winds put together some amazing gustnados, probably the best that I've ever seen. But when it comes to tornadoes, the derecho very, very unfairly treated this updraft. And what was an amazing, terrifying wall cloud was beginning to get blasted apart by something much stronger than it, which is terrifying to think. But that line of storms right there, that is just much more powerful than the tornado could ever be. Nonetheless, as the tornado passed through Laverne, the warning was issued yet again. And hey, I'm not mad. I collect these like cards. I shot back south to try to avoid the heaviest part of the derecho. And I saw damage from straight line winds. About 10 minutes prior to this, I had actually seen gustnados blast through this area, uprooting some trees, breaking a whole bunch of branches, but luckily, I don't believe I saw any major structural damage to anything. So, what now? I've seen the tornado. I've even seen some damaging gustnados. What do I do now? Well, I'm not home free by any means. At this time, I'm pretty much done with any tornado threat. Not much worry about hail, but what I did have to worry about was hurricane force winds and flash flood risks.
Yeah, we're just waiting out. It's better that way? Yeah. Okay, I'll have to shoot that way, thanks.
Ready to listen to the locals largely, but a little bit hesitant because you're probably not weather nerds like I am, to the degree that I am. I thought about what I was doing. Ultimately, I felt pretty confident about it. There was a patch in the lower southern part of the bow that made the derecho that I felt like I could shoot through if I timed it right, if I made it with enough skill and enough determination. I could get through the destructive 80 mile per hour winds, severe thunderstorm. And you know what? It may be a chaser thing, but when you look at those warnings with the accompanying graphics and see the life-threatening situation as a specific detail of that warning, there's a little bit of pride in that. Now, if you look right there closely in the center of the screen, it almost looks like a giant tornado, like some wedge tornado beast is just ripping through whatever is ahead of me. But that's not the case. I can go ahead and tell you that a giant wedge did not rip through northwestern Oklahoma that night. What did rip through that night was a derecho with a powerful gust front and circulation. Weak, but still notable circulation on the head of that gust front. And it's possible that that's what we're seeing right here, lit up by the lights of whatever town it was attacking with its powerful winds at that time. Here's a lightning shot for you guys, by the way. A little bit gratuitous, yes, but I don't do them that much. Those winds and the light and probably some amount of small particulate debris made it look like a tornado. And as I passed through the town of Sharon right here, again, I was able to see a pretty fair amount of vegetation damage. Lots of broken or torn down small trees, and obviously a lot of leaves ripped up and scattered out in the road, as well as a lot of steam and fog just hanging out above the road to make it just a little bit more ominous, as if it wasn't already ominous to see everything that had transpired after sunset that night. But there I was. By this point, I'm pretty much good. I got some Sonic, got myself a place to stay for the night, checked radar every so often to see if anything interesting was happening, and yes, very much so. It was the derecho, no question about it. Some people like to call them inland hurricanes, and I think that very well depicts why. Now, the next day, my chase weekend in regards to actual storm chasing, it was done because there was no chases further that I could get on. But I would continue to do some own personal damage surveying, and there was plenty of straight line wind damage as I went around for miles on end.
Definitely severe wind damage here and presumed tornado damage. This is pretty much the only spot that we're certain that a tornado hit yesterday in Oklahoma. I was at a fair distance from when it was hitting this area. So it was a lot closer when it was by Beaver. Definitely see.
Now, luckily, based off of what I read from the damage survey, the tornado largely spared most of the town. There's a lot of straight line winds associated with it, and also straight line winds from the not far behind derecho that probably confounded that survey in determining what was what. Anyways, this is a photo that I'm not going to get out of my head in regards to the tornado that passed through this area. It just looks like an illusion the way it floats there. But a picture like this, that's definitely gonna stand out to me, especially the story behind exactly how I got to here. And pictures like this as well, where the unexpected beauty of a gustnado was made apparent to me. And the unexpected destruction of a gustnado was also made apparent to me. And lightning shots for good measure, since I'm not that good at them. But most importantly, for a tornado chaser like myself, a tornado buried deep in there and not even fully condensed, but nonetheless a tornado. The damage survey that NWS did for that day determined that it was an EF1 with a peak wind speed of 100 miles per hour, path length of 6.9 miles, path width maximum of 300 yards, and best of all, 0 injuries or fatalities associated with it. I had finally seen a tornado that wasn't just EFU or EF0. And so, before this chase weekend, I had 2 EFUs in New Mexico, 1 EFU in Texas, and an EF0 in Oklahoma. I only added 1, but it was an EF1, my most powerful tornado to date. And yet again, with potentially more unaccounted for, and I can tell you, more on the way. Now, that was it for my chase weekend. I had started on 6/15, driving from Albuquerque through Amarillo, down to south central Oklahoma, kicked around the area, got the crap scared out of me in Duncan, went back up to Elk City to stay the night. After waking up and being leisurely, I made an important stop in the Texas Panhandle. And then you can see I cleared a path towards Colorado for my first chase in southeastern Colorado. Stayed the night around there, a little bit north of Lamar. And I pretty much drove the same way back to make the chase on 6/17. Kicked around there some more, stayed the night in Woodward, and then, yet again, I traced a path back the same way I'd came and deviated a little bit away to go visit family in Colorado, and then I disappear off the map there. But on June 16th, what exactly was it that was important that I did here in the Texas Panhandle before my first Colorado chase later that day? All right, well, today we are heading back west, closer to home. I'm trying to decide exactly what I want to do. What I'm doing right now, I'm actually heading towards Perryton, Texas, just crossed into Texas a little bit ago. I haven't personally seen significant tornado damage. And I know that whenever there's damage to that degree, help is needed and appreciated. I don't know if I'll end up being able to do anything when I get there. I mean, I don't have a lot of resources myself, so it's not like I'm going to be able to show up with, I don't know, a whole bunch of food and water and other supplies. I guess what I'm hoping is at least that just a little bit of manpower, like just a body that can help out, do stuff, because I think it's important to be able to grasp that, to have a respect of what it is that you do as a storm chaser, which is you try to follow these significant events, and whenever they do cross into populated areas like it did yesterday, you know, it goes from this amazing, beautiful spectacle of nature to a destructive, terrible tragedy that some people might not have even expected. Most people, at least, aren't as up to date and apprised of the information, and forecasts, and dynamics of weather that we are as storm chasers. I'm gonna hope that I can do something. I really hope that it doesn't get perceived or seen as me just like going there and gawking around at something terrible that happened. Like I said, having not seen significant tornado damage in person, I feel like it's maybe left me a little bit disconnected from what these storms can do. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that'll affect my perspective in a way that I can't predict. Yeah. I mean, I saw some damage yesterday in Oklahoma when I was chasing southwest, but more so south central, like in Lawton, obviously. So, that being said, I'm on my way to Perryton. I'm gonna hope I can help. Even if I can't, I'm gonna hope that I learned something from seeing what happened yesterday. And it's definitely wild to know that I reasonably could have been there when it happened. The only reason why I didn't shoot that way when I was in the Panhandle is because MCS tornadoes within that and embedded supercells. Either experience will teach me a way to feel comfortable about chasing those, or it's just something that I'll never really want to get involved with. I did not like the feeling, just imagining what that would be like, the risks involved. And obviously, when it happened, clearly saw that that was a big, severe, dangerous situation. Anyways, I'm doing a lot of talking. I really wish I could chase with somebody like here with me at least once and see what it's like. I don't know if I'd like it more or less than solo chasing. I do know that I love the freedom of solo chasing. Anyways, I'm gonna close out the video because my Maps app is on my phone and I'm recording on my phone right now. So I'll check back in. Hopefully I make it to Perryton. My car did get a little bit damaged yesterday. From what I can tell, I've tried to give it as close a look as I could. Looked like just front end damage, front end cosmetic damage. Didn't look like any like mechanical issues. And the car's doing okay. And not doing really any worse than usual. Not that it's usually bad. Just it's an older car. I gotta go, but I'll check in later. Oh, and here I 0 meter dust devil, if you can even see it. I'm not even sure that I just saw it right there, but it was there. Oh, and also one more nice little vibe. This guy. What's he doing up there? He's cool. Alright, we're getting up here into Perryton. Like I said on the last video, at the very least I'm just gonna try to get an idea of how bad the damage is for the sake of knowing, understanding what a significant tornado does, because like I've said, I haven't seen significant tornado damage, and I think that leaves me a little bit disconnected from what it's like when a tornado hits a populated area. And so onwards I made my way toward town center, where I knew the tornado had struck. That main road is closed. We'll see what other options there are. Driving through though, there's plenty of damage to the trees. There's a couple of different ways it could have gone that would have made a drastic difference to the effects that it had. Tree's been uprooted over there. That structure over here to the right, I'm not sure what it is, but it's down. definitely see there's damage throughout the town. And I do honestly prefer to talk less for this and just let the video say what needs to be said. I will note for anybody who's wondering, this tornado was rated EF3 with peak winds of 140 miles per hour. Just to give you a sense of how strong, sometimes surprisingly strong, that may actually be. The residential area to the north was severely devastated, as well as closer to the center of town and Main Street. Luckily, I was able to find a church to help out at for a few hours.
You can see some uprooted trees right here. Up ahead, you'll be able to see that big uprooted tree.
And that big uprooted tree, that was literally just the other corner of the same street right there, 50 yards away from this church. These people were offering supplies like water, cooking items, food, hygienic items, and in general, support. And the sense of community that I could tell between the people of the church and their friends and family, despite the day before being such a traumatic, terrible event for this town. It was beautiful what it was like to be around these people, standing strong, standing for each other, and letting me do even just the little part that I could. I didn't record very much. I just got the pictures for social media to post and let people know that the church was there to help them out. They appreciated that, but I didn't want to press any further. I much rather enjoyed that it exists more so in memory than on camera. Of course, not very long after, the town of Matador was also affected as well by an intense, destructive tornado. If you are willing and able to give any amount of support to the towns of Perryton and Matador, please do so. And so I leave it there. To anybody who watched the whole thing or even just part of it. I mean, I don't know how you make it this far to the end, but either way, if you watch any of it, thank you so much.